All right, this AirCrete roof is about 8 years old now, and we are cutting off part of the stem wall so that we can put a tin roof on. And from now on, I think we'll only be using tin roofs. This was an experiment to see how the AirCrete roof did, to have a roof that is lower cost, it's insulating, but by itself, it doesn't work. You can see here how the roof coatings, they just don't seem to stay stuck on very well. And especially with this Pueblo style flat roof, it's just not a good idea. And you can put some slope on them, but we'd still have this issue with the coatings peeling off. And then the biggest thing is that, at least out here, we have some really big hailstorms. And these hailstorms, we get anywhere from marble to golf ball size hail, and sometimes it comes down, in a 60 to 70 mile an hour wind. And we wind up with the hail hitting the roof and breaking through and causing cracking. And so now that this roof's coating is peeling off, and even though it's this, it doesn't matter if you spend the $300 a bucket for the silicone or buy the cheap stuff, it seems to peel off about the same. But, with no coating on it, and with the surface finish now cracked due to hail damage, it's not dependable. So this is a fail. And so, we do a lot of things experimentally just to see what's going to happen, to always be learning and improving the art. But flat AirCrete roofs, and I would say AirCrete roofs in general, I'm going to have to mark as a fail. And besides, these coatings, having to put them on every few years is just kind of ridiculous anyway. I mean, the whole purpose of living off grid is to move away from dependence on the system. And so having to buy buckets of roof sealant every 3-5 years, it just doesn't work. Well, having cut off a section of the stem wall and actually gotten the roof put on, a few of you have asked me, is there no other option besides buying sheet metal? And sheet metal is certainly a very durable material, and I like the question because I love the idea of building kind of the way they did in the old days, where you used whatever resources you had and it came freely from nature without expense. Because expense means generating money, which generally means working and giving away the majority of the value of your labor. And of course, I have to share that to those ends, we've been experimenting with geopolymers. You see, obviously this one right here has fallen apart and eroded because they were all the same blocks. This one is a lot better, but not so different than this one. It just has more aggregate, but it also is cracking and falling apart. Then we learned how to remove the silt, because the silt was being the problem, causing the blocks to just basically fall apart due to expansion and contraction as it heats and cools. And then we came to a much, much more solid geopolymer. And then, of course, that one right there as a reference is cement. And, what's really cool about geopolymer is that you basically can use the resources that you have, the earth underneath your feet, and you can create your own geopolymer. This block has been sitting here in the weather now for 3 years, and it's not eroded at all. You can still see the texture of the wood pattern in there. And what's really cool about that is the fact that this may be a real option that may actually be strong enough to withstand hail. And, I don't think I would use a flat roof because in all my years of construction, we kind of jokingly, but not really, would say that there's two types of flat roofs: the ones that are leaking and the ones that are going to leak. And, when it came to things like doing roofs for commercial buildings, one of our favorite ones ended up being the welded high-density polyethylene roofing. We put a lot of those on the newer O'Reilly's stores. But there are some natural options. Candanella, for example, Candanelle is a plant. It's kind of a southwestern plant, but it produces wax, and it's a protected plant, but it's still a plant that is frequently like poached, if you will, from the wild to make a wax. And this wax has a melting point of 155 to 63 degrees. So it's very possible then to create a geopolymer that's got a very thick layer of wax impregnated coating, therefore a waterproof roof. And one other option would be like Native American latex plants. You know, you can, with some acid and some processing, you can create latex, and that latex then can be embedded into your geopolymer to create a, you know, again, a watertight roof. But, you know, it's exciting to think that you can create kind of a modern fusion, a hybrid of technology, using the earth under your feet, and have potentially a longer enduring product than just a raw natural product. Now, I have to say that probably this kind of roofing would be best suited to, you know, like arches, arch cabins, and domes, because their shape is kind of self-reinforcing, and they're really not necessarily suited to your typical angled house roof. I mean, you know, you might be able to create some steep angles and build yourself, you know, something like this to where the rocks could stack, but certainly arches are easier. I mean, you could even still build a standard house and then put an arch roof on top. So with a little modification, yeah, there is hope. There are ways to make this happen that's beyond, you know, just going to buy something. And of course, we, as always, have to balance, you know, the buying of those things worse, you know, with the hours of labor that we would spend doing it. You know, certainly when you have more time than money, you can do it. But we defaulted to sheet metal for this project because it's just so quick and easy, and we needed it done right now. So I hope that answers your questions. Y'all have a great day.